Welcome everybody to a special edition of Turf Talk Down Under. I'm Stassja. With me is Terri from LGB Alliance Aotearoa, New Zealand. I've invited Terri on to give us the lowdown on what happened in New Zealand on Saturday. Sorry, which day was it?
It was Saturday at Albert Park, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that you picked Kelly J up from the airport, but that's not the case.
No, I was on a bit of a roster to do that if necessary, but we had arranged that the security manager and a couple of his men would go and meet her. They felt it was safer with all of the feedback from the media through the week. It was just persistent. Every headline, every mention of her started with anti-trans activist. Even when we said, no, she's not anti-trans, she's actually pro-women and children, it was totally ignored. It was probably one of the worst times of my life since we fought for the decriminalisation of homosexual law reform in New Zealand in about 1985. I've never been presented with such hatred, vitriol, absolute nastiness, since back then. They hate us. They hate women, they hate lesbians, they hate elderly women, pregnant women, and you could see it from their faces.
Yeah. Did your media beat up the Nazi angle after what happened here in Melbourne?
Yeah, they certainly did. And I sort of put it across to them that a Maori women's group, Mana Wahine Korero, were actually, funding her, her visit here as well. And, how on earth would a Maori women's group bring in a white supremacist or a Nazi? But it just fell on deaf ears. They had the mantra, they had the words, and Joseph Goebbels would have been extremely proud of the job they did.
Yeah, it's totally propaganda. It's an Orwellian dystopian nightmare.
It was.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd see anything like this in New Zealand. I mean, I saw the protests down at Parliament in February over the vaccinations and all the anti-mandates. And I think the same mentality just went into this as well. It was awful.
It seems to me that trans activists really think that we hate them and that we want them dead.
I don't know if they really think that, but they like the story. It plays right into their martyrdom and victimhood. They like to present themselves as being the most oppressed and marginalised demographic. But men, even in dresses, are not vulnerable, oppressed, or marginalised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you travelled to Auckland. How far is the drive for you?
Well, usually it's about 2.5 hours, but we have a major road that actually collapsed, with the cyclone about a month ago. It was a massive cyclone. So the major road in and out to my area has completely collapsed. So it took me about 6 hours to get there.
Wow. Geez.
Yeah. But I was determined to get there. I knew there was no way I wasn't going. And so I left early morning and, got there mid-afternoon.
And you were staying at the same hotel as Kelly J?
Yes, the same hotel, specifically because she was staying there, that Tanya and I felt that we should stay there with her, and so she didn't have to leave a room or do anything like that. Yeah, that we'd look after her.
Yeah. But then you found out that the hotel had cancelled.
Yeah. Yes, they lied. The Mercure Hotel in Auckland lied to me. They said that she had cancelled, and I said, "Oh, do you know where she's going to? We have no idea." And they said to me, "But if you no longer wish to stay here, we can find alternative accommodation for you." So they didn't want Tanya and I staying there. once they found out. Now, I got hold of Kelly J at the airport. She'd been approached and offered to queue jump by an airport, security person, but it was no such thing. They actually took her into a room. They made her unpack everything. She was held up for 2 hours explaining what every single article in her travel bags were. She had all the security questions from immigration over and over again. So she was stuck there for about 2 hours doing that. And then she was taken to another hotel, which we didn't even know where she was. And I guess that was for security reasons.
Wow.
But yeah, so they had a guard on her all night, apparently, concerned about her.
Her security.
Yes, which,
Yeah.
well, we paid for. Well, by the time it got through the council, it was extremely expensive. So we paid 2/3 and Kelly paid 1/3, because we were paying for Auckland and Wellington. She paid 1/3 for, for a couple of security guards. Yeah, so she actually, even when she checked into that other hotel in Auckland, she must have been seen because someone put a threatening letter under her door during the night. So she woke up to a threatening letter in the morning. The security of that hotel looked at the cameras and found out it was a resident. So, it could have been even nastier if they'd actually sort of let a few people know.
Is Kelly J going to take action, like put a police complaint in against that particular resident who threatened her? Or?
I don't know. I think when she left New Zealand, I think she was in, quite upset about how she'd been treated. I know she's one tough lady, but I think I'm pretty tough, but it's upset me, and not to the, I didn't go through anything near the extent to what she or Tanya and a few others went through. Yeah.
So what happened on the day for you?
Well, I went and picked her up. So I had the lovely lady in my car.
Nice.
And she was filming as we went through. Auckland on a Saturday morning was just packed. And the trip down Princess Street to Albert Park was very slow. And some people identified her in my car and, started making noise. And anyway, the security head called up all of his, boys and girls to come and meet us at the gate, which they did. And that was the last I saw of her, because I actually went to find a park. I had to find a car park, which was not easy. So it was probably about another 20 minutes, 30 minutes before I got back up to the rotunda. And by that stage, there was so much noise, and that bundled Kelly J off to safety. Now, we'd been talking to the police for weeks. They had promised us that they would be in between the barriers, that we set up 2 lots of barriers. They assured us they were going to stand in the breach there between us and the rotunda and the protesters over the other side. We expected it to be loud. We expected a bit of banter. We didn't expect what we got. No police. The police sergeant who was supposed to turn up at 8:30 never turned up. We saw a van there. There were cops sitting in the van. Didn't get out. And later, when all of this was going on, where people were being punched, 10-year-old girls were being screamed at, I had to escort a couple of women to the Albert Street, the Albert Park toilets, because they were scared to go in. And these were mothers. These were women who had just come to, watch. They weren't even there to read anything, or they'd just come to see. And I went to the toilets and I made sure that no guys were in there, because I just thought if there are, I'm not going to be very happy. But all of these things were going on. I mean, it was just every man-hating, misogynist incel came out that day.
Woman
well.
hate.
Yeah. They just, they thought it was that, you could see that they hated women. And, a few of my friends were punched. by various men in the crowds. They just wanted to have a go.
There has
And,
been those images going around of
mm,
an older woman with grey hair and
yes.
her eye swelling up. Are you in
Mm.
touch with her?
No, I believe somebody is. I think she's sort of still in shock and wants a bit of privacy. But I mean, I'd love to thank her and say hi and, perhaps pay for some, she needs medical care.
Yeah.
But, it's just horrific seeing that. And a friend of mine who was, well, you've met Tanya, haven't you?
Yeah.
Helping, assisting Kelly out. I saw her in the, sort of in the huddle. She got punched to the ground, a couple of times. And I walked around trying to find everyone, if anybody was still there, because I was concerned for their safety. And I had a woman, adult, adult female human on it. And I thought, I'm not taking this off. I'm not putting it on inside out, as Kelly J sort of suggested to me. I thought, I have nothing to hide. If someone wants to have a go at me, I'll just hold on to them and scream as loud as I could till the police arrived. But in hindsight, I don't think that would have happened anyway, because I saw it was about 3 or 4 policemen standing under a big tree having a bit of a chat. And I went over to one of them and I said, "Excuse me, we've got a council permit for use of that rotunda. Could you please clear them out?" And I asked various policemen 3 times to do that, and it was just brushed away. They were not there to help. They didn't care.
How captured is your police force over there, do you think?
Oh, I think they're very captured. Tanya and Hamish went, I think, down in July last year to see the police, was it diversity liaison manager in Wellington, and sort of sat down and said, we have concerns, because there was a conference that was put out for diversity and not one LGB organisation was included. It was all TQ. Every single speaker, every single presentation was all towards TQ. So we don't get any money from them, from the rainbow tick or anything. It all goes to trans.
Yeah.
So they're totally captured. And there's a list of organisations that have the rainbow tick. So yeah, we'll be looking at that.
I went up to Brisbane for Anna McCormack's IWD Brisbane Meanjin conference, and on the Saturday of that, she organised a rally. Trans activists showed up to counter protest us. It was small. Both sides was small. There were more women than there were trans activists, though, I will say.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
The police did their job. They called in reinforcements. So all these Brisbane cops with bicycles showed
I
up.
saw that. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Yeah.
And
Oh, well, yeah.
they used their bikes as shields and step by step pushed back the trans activists so that we had space and our speakers could be heard. And then at the very end, as we were packing up, I went off to the sidelines to have a cigarette and asked this cop, and he just had this like stone face.
Yeah.
And I said to him, "So have we convinced you?" And he broke into this huge grin and he said, "I didn't need convincing." So I that was really encouraging for me to know that, and I think it must be the same over there in New Zealand. There must be, I would say, a majority of police officers are just not buying this shit. And I just can't comprehend what went on behind the scenes for them to take no action in Auckland on Saturday.
Oh, I think it came down from probably the diversity liaison people, and possibly, At this stage, I will never ever trust the New Zealand police again. To me, I think they're extremely corrupt. I don't want to have anything to do with them. And that's how a lot of the women there feel now. I will not trust them ever again.
I have been thinking, like wondering about what we do now, how we proceed. I've had two ideas. One's probably going to get me in trouble, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yes.
And I think that women need to arm themselves when going to these events, or we need men to step up and form a protective line between us and trans activists. What do you
Yes.
think, Terri?
Well, we were specifically told by the police, according to our head marshal, that we were not to have anything in our hands, because I had a loud, personal alarm, and I was told, no, 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 you can't carry that. They had, I mean, the noise was phenomenal. There is no way that even if Posey got started, or any of the women yelled, we wouldn't have been able to hear them at all. It was just totally blocked out. But yeah, but we have had offers, from men, and we really appreciate that. But we did actually go out and ask quite a few groups, would they mind just, we didn't want to fight of any sort, but we just wanted them to stand there with their arms crossed, looking staunch, to protect the women. But it just didn't happen, because we also feel that Sports New Zealand and the police got around to them and told them that it wasn't a good idea.
Sorry, what Sports New Zealand? What?
Sports New Zealand, we actually approached the Boxing Federation here, which has actually said on its own that they're not doing trans boxing. They're not supporting it at all. You're either a female boxer or you're a male boxer. So they're on a bit of the outer. Sports New Zealand is trying to push and say, oh, everyone needs to be thought of. You can't exclude trans people from sport.
And so what you approach the boxing?
He came back to us several days later and said, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do, I'm not allowed, I'm not permitted to do this, because I think he needed to clear all of these sports, federations are, tied up through Sport New Zealand. That's where they get their funding from. So if you're a bad boy, you get a smack on the hand and no funding, or your funding's cut.
Yeah.
Destiny Church offered, apparently, but nobody knows who they offered to, because it certainly wasn't to the organising committee.
Tell me about Destiny's Church, because I heard that afterwards the trans mob went down and targeted that church.
Yeah. Well, they're almost a motorcycle gang in their own right, so I don't think you would have taken them on physically. Actually, one of their riders ran over or knocked over Marama Davidson, who's that awful Green MP, who was she was standing in the middle of the road taking selfies on a pedestrian crossing. And I think they were all in formation. And she came out. So she got not, I mean, she was fine. You can't hurt something that's concrete, a hit of concrete. But
this was on Saturday. That happened.
this is on Saturday. Destiny Church don't like gays. I think women are second tier, because it's always the men, out on the bikes and out protesting. The women aren't there. And so they're anti-gay and they're anti-trans. So they're not an ally. I don't want to take on any ally that, once this is over, will turn around and say, now we're fighting you. I don't really want to do that, because I just don't think it achieves anything. I think that someone is looking at, and it may take a long time to get a vote or get a seat, but a women's political party, I mean, we're 51% of the population. Surely we might get, 5% of the vote to get one person in.
We're having the same discussion over here in Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because 100% of all of our MPs voted for self-ID.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
you know,
You've probably seen Moira Deeming
yeah.
here in Victoria. Like I've known her for 2 years now, and I consider her a friend. And um, for her to be blamed for the actions of men, it's just the height of misogyny.
Yeah.
I called up another Liberal, that's the Conservative Party MP here in Victoria, this woman, Bev MacArthur, because she's consistently stood up for women's rights and lesbians' rights in the face of this insane legislation that we've got. I called up her office yesterday and had a good chat with whoever answered the phone, just asking her, well, if I couldn't get together 3 or 4 women to go out and talk to Liberal MPs for Victoria, which ones should we target to sort of educate them? Because
Yeah.
I still have this perception that maybe they just don't really know what's going on. But
Yeah.
if she was saying, look, the ones that would talk to you are already on side, and the ones that aren't on side probably wouldn't talk to you. So to have our Conservative Party supporting this insanely regressive trans movement over the rights of women and girls is just it's mind blowing, and it leaves us really with no option other than to start a women's party of our own. If the Conservatives
Yes.
aren't going to fucking step up for us,
Mm.
well, we're going to have to do it ourselves.
I think so. We've had two senior, it's not really out and about yet, but we've had two fairly senior Labor Party, not MPs or anything, but sort of the next tier down, who have been helping in, seats, electorate seats for years, who have both resigned with, in disgust.
Oh, wow.
But just let us know, so that, and I think one of them is one of the ones who's actually discussing starting up a women's party. I
Wow.
think you have to have over here 500 members, and then you can register.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, over here it's different in each state. So I think Hobart, it was like, Tasmania, it was like 100 members. But bigger states like New South Wales, Victoria, it's like 500 members. But I think it's doable. Yeah.
I had to go to the bank this morning because I actually had I lost stuff over the weekend, it disappeared when I was at the park. But so I had to go to the bank this morning to, get a new card and all this sort of stuff. And a woman standing in line actually recognized me from my local chat, on the local podcast that someone had done, I think late last year or early this year. Came up and introduced herself to me and said, look, I think what you're doing is wonderful, da 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 da. And I thought, oh, it's
What a relief.
it's not, yeah, because I don't know if you realize, but I've been publicly tarred over my entire town. I've been thrown out as the admin of the local community page as being a transphobic and far right and a bigot.
Right. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean, this guy could potentially put my life in danger
Yeah.
by doing that, because everyone knows, where everyone lives. Yeah. So instead of just saying to me privately, I don't think, we're working together anymore and goodbye, which would have been fine, he puts a public post up about me.
Oh, this was just recently, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
it was last week. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember now. I did see you post
Mm.
about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So Tell me what's been happening in mainstream media with all of this,
Well,
like
not a lot that's still referring to her. We've had a couple of media organisations that call her women's rights activist, but the majority is still calling her, transphobic and everything, anti-trans. So nothing's really changed, but we're looking at what we can do. Letters are going off to the police, and Hamish has put out a lovely letter on LGBAA NZ. And I think, I still think a lot of the women are in shock. So I think it still needs just a couple of more days. There's, because I have, there's a marshal who just can't even speak at the moment.
right.
Just so in shock. Yeah.
I did listen to what's his name? The guy who runs the platform in New Zealand.
Oh, yes. Sean Plunket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a great job
Yes, he did.
opening up his lines and letting women call in and describe what they had experienced. That was fantastic. I've listened to half of the highlights
Yes.
from that. But he also did an interview with Brendan O'Neill from the UK.
Okay. I haven't heard that one.
Which was awesome. I am a big fan of Brendan O'Neill. I subscribe to his podcast, have done for some time now. And what Sean was describing was New Zealand media presenting this as, it was a lovely celebration of diversity or something like that. Yeah.
That's what they have actually turned it into. They have Chanel Lal, who was a Fijian Indian. He was, I think, originally a refugee. We've got so many refugees who have stirred this up. We've got Golriz Garaman, who is was she an Iraqi refugee who actually, she was a solicitor. She defended one of the Rwandan mass murderers.
Wow.
And she's here, and we've got the source thrower who's a refugee, and we've got Ricardo March, I think, who was, who came from Mexico. So all of the prime stirrers are not, not even New Zealand. I mean, probably they've got passports by now, but they've brought their violence, into New Zealand, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow. And they're all in mainstream news?
Well, you've got the two Green MPs, Golriz, who I call Grizz, and Ricardo, are both in Greens, continually bleating about bringing more refugees in, which I don't mind personally, but I think we've got to get the right sort after this. And the Colombian who came in and had a, transition operation here, probably on taxpayers' money and through the source. Yeah.
Wow. There was one journalist, I'm just looking her up,
Rachel Small.
Yeah, Rachel Smalley. So she came out in our defence.
Yes, she did. She actually phoned me up, and I had a chat to her, and I'm always careful, because I thought, are you just being sympathetic, empathetic, to sort of get something out of me? But it became clear that she was very genuine, and she was concerned. So she has spoken out on our behalf, which is really good. So perhaps slowly we can get the tables turning, but I'm not giving up. I might be sitting here and, still in a little bit of stasis, but I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
We can't give up.
Exactly. I think that this has put the fire in the belly of lots of women
and men.
and
there are some men who are very angry about what happened.
Yeah. It's just I mean, it's so absurd. These Let Women Speak events take place because we have no voice in the media and we have virtually no voice in politics either. So, okay, let's just take it to the street. And what happens? We get we meet with male violence on the street, and so, well, what choice do we have? We have to keep taking it to the street. I did a tweet comparing a picture of the suffragettes getting manhandled by police with Kelly J. That sort of aerial shot of her just surrounded, trying to get out.
I saw that.
Yeah. And I think women need to. This is historical.
Yes, it is.
What happened in Auckland is a historical event, and we just have to keep doing it. We have to show up, no excuses. Get your ass into the city. I hate going to the city, but you've got to do it.
I know we have to get up. We're actually talking about another gathering. You know, we've been talking about where and how and what to do, and we will speak, and we'll let the police know, and we'll let quite a few men know too, because we've had some step up and say we will come and protect you.
Yeah.
But I don't want anything turning into a massive punch up either.
Yeah.
They can eyeball each other, but we don't want anything. I've we've never wanted anything violent.
I think we need to research some Roman battle techniques.
Maybe we need shields, Viking shields.
Yeah. Yes, exactly what I was just about to say. That get them
shield maidens, right?
Yeah. Now, the other really disturbing thing that I'm seeing on my feed is the man who thinks he's a woman who poured the tomato soup on Kelly J. He's off to the UN, is that right? Or he's already been to the UN to receive some women's award?
I think he's a UN advisor or something. I haven't got that far, but I had heard this morning that he'd been charged with assault.
Oh, wow.
I hope he has, because that could have been acid or anything in that bottle he had. I mean, it was potentially, catastrophic.
Yeah.
But I'll do a little bit of looking. Yeah, I haven't actually done a lot of looking at all those sorts of things for a few days, because I just haven't felt I could stomach it. But we'll be back on it, believe me.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to mention?
I don't think so. I think we I actually went around the the park afterwards, and there was still I got abused and shouted at, and fingers pushed at me and things like that. But so the violence was still there, and people have brought kids. There was a mother with a 10-year-old girl. She looked like a young boy because she had her hair short, and her mother said to me, "Oh no, she knows she's a lesbian." And this kid had he obviously wasn't unwell. He was standing there. He probably would have been in his 40s. In fact, you'll see him in some of the film. He's got a rainbow headband and a rainbow bow tie and a mask on, and he's walking towards the camera as the elderly woman is being punched. He's trying to block off the view. He was actually quivering and standing there screaming into her face, "You're a fucking bigot," to a 10-year-old girl.
Yeah.
She was in tears. Her mother was trying to look after her. I actually sort of got in between, I got the other side of the girl, and I said, "You're okay. Nothing's going to happen. It's all okay." I said, "You'll just grow up and old like me. It's okay." Because she was saying, "I don't want to trans." and so this guy stood next to me, and he was screaming in my ear, he was literally quivering, saying, "You're a fucking bigot." So I just kept going, sorry, can't hear. What would you say? And he was getting more and more infuriated. And I finally, just told him to run along. But there were a lot of unwell people there on Saturday as well. They certainly have managed to pick up the deranged, the unwell, the delusional, the autistic, everyone who's vulnerable. They've made them even more vulnerable now.
Yeah. Unbelievable. You just reminded me, I went into Melbourne City on gosh, what was it? Monday? Yeah, Monday, when the Victorian Liberal Party were voting regarding Moira. So I was one of 3 gender critical women, and there were, I don't know, maybe 20 Christians from Moira's church there. And I had my woman, adult human female umbrella and t-shirt, and I just went and stood on the footpath to have a cigarette away from everyone. And this nutter started screaming at us from across the street. I'm not sure what he was saying, but then he started doing the Nazi salute and the goose step. And so I start yelling back at him, going, "You're a Nazi. You just did the Nazi salute, so that makes you a Nazi." And then he yells back, "I'm Jewish. I can't be a Nazi."
Oh,
And
a lot of them are compliant. Well, not a lot, but some were compliant. You can tell them that.
well, it just, the irony of the whole thing was just bizarre. And the fact that now in Australia they're looking at a blanket ban on doing the Nazi salute. It's like,
good.
yeah, but that Jewish man could have gone to prison for what he did if those laws were already in place. Like, unbelievable.
Well, I've upset quite a few people on Twitter and Facebook when being accused of being, they talk about Posey's, Nazi support and everything. And I said, well, that's not true at all. And in fact, the trans and Nazis have so much in common. Yeah. After all, they've both supported medical experiments on young people.
Yeah, exactly.
So they have far more in common than what we do.
And they both really, really like flags.
Oh, they do.
Someone made an infographic comparing Nazis with trans activists. Yes. I shared that the other day too. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, look, thank you so much for your time, Terri. Thanks for getting all that off your chest.
Thank you.
Yes. If there are other women from New Zealand who would like to, just have a record of your experience here on Turf Talk, feel free to email me at turftalkdownunder@gmail.com. And look, everyone, stay strong, keep fighting, don't give up.
No, don't give up. We are just having a little break, and we're going to be back stronger, tougher, louder, prouder. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. All right. Thanks, Terri. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Stassja.